Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome once again to season 2. And we have another wonderful guest here with us today. And I just want to welcome all of you to Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patty. And as you're learning, I am your host, Patty Stuhlin, and I am the Chief Pathfinder of Pathways with Patty. Today, our remarkable guest is Alycia Washington. She aids moms in building confidence, releasing guilt, and getting unstuck. Her motherhood journey from guilt to empowerment led her to help other moms break free. She learned how to release the myths and mistakes that kept moms mentally stuck. She chronicles her journey to motherhood in the Amazon best-selling Girl, Your Brand is a Big Deal anthology. She is on a mission to dispel debilitating mom myths and mistakes through her signature 90-day group coaching program, Bloom. Moms transforming their lives in 90 days. She is based in Indianapolis with her husband, Marquise, and 2 teen sons. Well, Alycia, it is a pleasure having you as my guest today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Well, I'm very excited. When we did our original call together, I just felt an instant connection to you, and there is a spirit and joy and sunlight that exudes from you. And I know
Thank
that our
you.
listeners today, and those of you viewing on YouTube, you could see it. And those
Oh,
of you listening, I know that you're going to be, if you haven't felt it yet, you are going to feel the joy that exudes from Alycia. You can really, truly tell that she is living her passion and purpose. So with that, I mean, please share with our audience, your story and how you found your way through everything you've experienced.
oh, wow. Well, thanks again for having me. And I'm going to kind of give you the nutshell version
Mm-hmm.
of the story.
This story.
um, like I said, my whole mission now is to help other moms kind of rediscover themselves and to get unstuck. And I got here because I had to go through that journey myself. and and I know that I'm not the only one that had to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of tell my backstory because I think understanding that, hearing that gives you an even better understanding of kind of where I am now.
Oh, yes.
So the backstory, um, I say I started my motherhood journey in guilt, and at 16, I found out I was pregnant,
Mm.
and and that pregnancy was one built in teenage love. And after, my boyfriend at the time, we had talked. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. We had talked about getting married, all the things, until that day that my mom found the church program that had us writing, that had our notes from church. We had been writing back and forth about our new life as parents
Mm.
and all these things. And my mother, I came home as I usually would do on a Sunday, and like a teenager, just dropped it on the table, because my mother would usually ask me, how was church? What they talk about? Or she'd pick up the program and read it to see
Uh-huh.
how was church? What did they talk about? And of
Uh-huh.
course, she did just that. And then I heard my name called in the voice that I never, ever wanted to hear again.
Yes.
And I came around the corner and I saw my mother holding up that program, and my life changed at that point. She gave me, I always say she gave me an ultimatum. It was either her or the baby.
Mm.
And I did not know, I had never fathomed that journey without having her support. It was just, and even in retrospect, I think now it would have been a different story if I would have made a different choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I made I picked my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that journey of having that experience and having that termination, I went on to college, and in my senior year of college, found out I was pregnant again.
Mm-hmm.
And that time, no one knew except for the father. And that I kind of operated in a numbness because I
Mm.
pushed all the emotions and all of the things, all of the emotions, all of that whole experience down, and thought I had locked it away, never to be touched again. Because at that point, I had to regain my good girl status from my mom.
Sure.
And at my senior year in college, I was like, it was automatic decision. And so again, I had another termination. And after that, I never thought that I would ever have kids or that I even deserve to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so fast forward, I get married and we're excited that I'm pregnant with our first child and find out around 16 weeks that I had already started to crown.
Wow.
And from there, they did what's called an emergency cerclage. And we had, uh, I think we had about 3 more weeks of being pregnant. And
Well,
at 19 weeks on Christmas Day, our daughter, Victoria, entered the world. And
wow.
I was able,
What a Christmas present, huh?
what a Christmas present. She was born at 19 weeks. And so uh, I was thankful, even though she was still considered a miscarriage. I was thankful that I was able to birth her, and I really did
Mm.
believe that that was a gift, a kiss. I call it a God kiss because I never wanted to have another DNC, and that my husband and I had talked about this experience just last week and how I hadn't remembered how adamant I was about not letting the doctors um, do another procedure. And they
Mm.
gave me that option. We can go in now or we can see if she'll pass naturally. And my husband was like, "Oh no, you were adamant that we were going to wait." Uh, so at 19 weeks, I actually gave birth to our daughter Victoria, and we were
Mm.
able to hold her in our hands and to say goodbye and all of the things. So in a year, 2 years later, I we were blessed again to get pregnant.
Can I
This
ask you a
time,
question real quick before you go too
sure.
far? When you had the opportunity to say goodbye to Victoria, do you think that you also were able to say goodbye to your other terminated pregnancies as well, or was that not even something that?
No, I said goodbye before I got married. God and I had to have our own little journey um, with me dealing with those terminations, and so a
Mm-hmm.
part of that journey was asking for forgiveness. And I received His forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
but I did not forgive myself.
Right.
And so that was a big journey in its own little pocket.
Sure.
And a part of my kind of learning how to forgive myself and truly receiving God's forgiveness, I wrote letters to both of the babies
Okay.
to apologize, to say I was sorry, to tell them that I love them. And they each had a name. Like uh, I, for some reason, the first baby was a girl in my mind, and the second baby was a boy. So it was
Mm-hmm.
Carmen and Michael.
Oh, okay.
So I had named them, I had written them goodbye letters, and had truly given that over to God. And so I still didn't think I was ever going to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I had God and I had dealt with that a little bit before I got married. And so I was elated and I was elated and I was scared with the first pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then and I, like I said, I still considered it a God kiss that she was born, even though she wasn't full term, she was born whole. And
Right.
so we could, and her name was Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
We had named her within that 3 week when we found out that she was a girl. And within that 3 weeks, we were hoping that we could
Mm-hmm.
um, keep her to term. And so when my oldest, who's now 18, I give you a little heads up, this part was a good part. When we were pregnant with him, we were still scared, but I have what's called an incompetent cervix, which I believe is a physical consequence from the terminations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the spiritual forgiveness is that even though my body was still kind of like, nah, pregnancy is not going to be a great thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to. I, I had to have all kind of procedures. I had, I think, two cerclages with my first, and then I was on hospital bed rest. I always have to remind him that, son, I was not just on bed rest with you. I was in the hospital for 2.5 months in
Oh
the
my
bed.
gosh.
Not a,
Oh.
yes. So when he gets a little like, son, let me remind you how much you have been loved since conception. I had to lay still in a hospital bed
Oh my
for two
gosh.
and a half months. They did not want me to move because I was leaking fluid. And
Wow.
yeah, when I was,
Amniotic fluid.
yes, I can never say that word. But I was leaking, and
Oh.
I had to I had to stay in the bed. And I went in, I think, at 20. I think I went into the hospital maybe at 22 or 24, no, at 22 weeks.
Mm.
And and I didn't realize it until after my doctor had said something crazy, but I was in the labor and delivery. I just thought they couldn't find me a bed. But I stayed there for almost a month on bed rest in labor and delivery on
Oh my
high
gosh.
bed, yeah, high risk, on the high risk ward, I guess. And it wasn't until my doctor came in at 26 weeks and she was like, "Oh, I didn't think we were going to get here." Wait, what? You didn't? What? So they really thought I was going to go into labor at any time. And so I stayed there until he was born. I think at that point, because that's the week of viability. So they moved me within a week or two to a bed, the regular high risk ward. So
Mm-hmm.
I was there until he was born at 32 weeks. So I was like,
Wow.
son, don't you ever think I don't love you.
Boy, have
Ever,
you got
ever.
something to hold over his head
Right?
forever.
Ever. Like, I spent my birthday in the hospital in a bed
Oh,
by myself. Like, kid, please. You don't
don't
even
even
know.
go there, right?
Right. And his brother, I didn't have to do hospital bed rest with him, but I did have to do bed rest. And with him, I had a couple I just had a couple blood transfusions, no big deal. And so when they were, so when my oldest was born, I went in, bottles blazing. Like, I was all in as a mom. It took so much to get this kid here that I couldn't even fathom like not being full-time parent to him. Like, there was so I went in bottles blazing and became a stay-at-home mom. And my husband's a truck driver, so he was on the road a lot. So it was just me and this kid. And then his brother came along 3 years later. So it's just the three of us most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and I didn't know how to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I only have what is available to me on what's a good mom, because I'm still trying to get my good girl status, keep that in check. So of
Mm-hmm.
course, my good girl status, I have to be a good mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom. So everything has to be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so trying to figure out what that way was and what that
Uh-huh.
perfect mom looked like, and never quite got it, and I'm kind of glad, but it's exhausting.
Oh yeah.
It's exhausting. And then so I was a stay-at-home mom. When my oldest was in first grade, we became a homeschooling family. He struggles with ADHD, and it was apparent. And we didn't want to do medicine at the time because he was so young. And so it was okay. Well, homeschool. Well, my husband thought of the idea, like, maybe we should homeschool them, and I'm like, yeah, because I know if we were homeschooling, then that was me homeschooling. So I was like, ugh. And I remember his first grade teacher coming to me at the pickup line. She was great with him, and And I knew he was doing good in her class. And so she worked with him. And so, but she came to me and she's like, I just want to let you know, I'm not coming back next semester. This is right before Christmas break. So
Mm,
she's like, I'm not coming back. I said, well, you just help me make my decision. So that's when and why we started homeschooling, because I knew he wouldn't be able to handle that. I didn't think he would be able to handle that transition. He was
right.
already kind of struggling with her, and she was great for him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, well, homeschooling. We did that until, let's see, he was fourth or fifth grade, I think. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. And so as we were going through life and doing life, and I was trying to figure out how to be, you know, a good mom and wife and teacher and all these things, it became very exhausting. And somewhere along the way, I completely forgot who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was pouring into everything and everybody, kids, husband, family, community, and doing all the things like church ministry, women's ministry, kids ministry, all these, great things. But I
Mm-hmm.
was getting worn out, and I didn't recognize how intense it was until the boys were a little older. And I remember my husband would ask me questions like, because he could see it, he could see the burnt out, he could see the kind of um not
Especially since he was
emptiness,
like on the road, not with you 24/7. So when he
right?
did come back, it was very apparent
He
for
was like,
him.
where, we have conversations now, and he's like, I just want to know where my wife was, because you were just, I was kind of going through the motions and I was empty. I didn't have anything else to give. And and it was a little easier because the boys were older, and so they didn't depend on me as much.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their own little love hate as siblings.
Yes,
Like
sibling
they're
rivalry.
right, they're best friends one day, and then the other day they're at each other's throat for a pair of pants.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know boys argued over clothes, but they do. They really do. Uh, so I was I was drowning in my own um I almost called it like a martyrdom. Like I was so busy giving up everything for everybody. I completely forgot about me. And he
Mm-hmm.
would ask me questions like, what's your dream? What's your dream? What do you dream about doing? And I couldn't answer him, or I didn't have an answer for him, which would frustrate him because he's that guy who likes answers like, well, for real, you've got to have, no, I don't, I have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it would annoy me because he would just keep asking me, and I'm like, I said I got nothing. Like what? And so, but yeah, I didn't know what I dreamt about anymore. I didn't know what what
Can, can I
moved me.
can I ask you, when you were in college, what was it that you wanted to do when you were in college?
My college dream, I was a sociology major, and my college dream was to have a community center.
Mm,
And the community center would run programs for kids and families.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it was amazing. So I was always in my head, it was top notch. So
Well,
I was
yes.
always involved in community programming, youth development, and all those things. So that was my career. I was oh gosh, I did so much youth development, um, youth diversion programs, counts not well. And then I went back after working at a um, foster care group home.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to school to get my master's in counseling
Oh, wow.
because I just wanted to be able to do a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
and really talk to kids and not harm them, because a lot of times adults who are working with youth development, they have a heart for what they're doing, but they don't always get the training and the skills that they need to do it in
Right.
a way that doesn't bring any more harm. And especially when you're working with kids who you already know are in pain and who are going through a traumatic experience. And so I didn't want to bring any more harm. And I wanted to know how to talk to kids in a way, or well, really talk to kids in a way that would pull information from them so I can help
Mm-hmm.
them better. Because I was in a group home and I wanted to know how to, uh, I just want to know how to connect with the kids better. And
Right.
so that's why I went back to school, and then I stopped to get married and then went back, moved.
So
And so it's a whole bunch of stuff.
you rediscovered your passion for wanting to be a full-time mom, which I believe is the
Mhm.
hardest job in the world. I was very, very fortunate and blessed to have a mom that was her goal, was to be a
Mhm.
full-time wife and mother. And she was and still is an incredible person. But because she was so great at doing it, I learned that that was not the path for me, because
Mm,
I never felt like I would have met the level that she was at. So
right.
what you decided to do, I believe, is the hardest job in the world, the
Yeah.
toughest career out there. So you're going along now, you're burnt out basically on
Yeah.
motherhood, knowing that you did have a passion for this other area that you went to school, got a master's for, and now you are at the point where you're trying to decide, what do I do
What's
next?
next? Yeah. What's next? And really, I was trying to figure out why I'm stuck. Like I knew I was stuck,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't figure out why. And I had a mentor earlier on, I think when the boys were like right before, in this early kind of gray stage where I was really starting to kind of lose myself.
Mm-hmm.
And a piece of that was I stopped wearing jewelry when the boys were really little, because it's just dangerous to wear jewelry with little people.
Mm-hmm.
They pull on stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we were always at the park or playing, and the balls are flying, and I'm always getting hit. So I just stopped wearing jewelry. But what
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't, and earrings, and can't see them now, but they were always a big thing for me. Like you wouldn't see me without a pair of earrings. Like if,
Mm-hmm.
and so all of that had changed. And she had challenged me. And because we were one family income, I never bought anything for myself unless I absolutely had to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so she challenged me. She's like, why don't you do something for you? I could not fathom that. Like, what do I do for me? What?
Right.
I
Right.
can't, because I'm taking away from the household. I'm taking away from the family. And she was like, just go and buy you a simple pair of earrings, like a $5 pair of earrings. Go. And I never did it. We
Wow.
would we would talk, like she said, just get your earrings in. Well, no. And I always made an excuse. And looking back on that, uh, that a pair of earrings would not have devastated our household income. We were
Right.
not going to lose our house. The kids we were all going to still eat if I bought a pair of earrings. But in my mind, doing something for me was out of the question.
It was selfish.
It was selfish. And that's one of the major myths that I really want moms to realize, that self-care is not selfish,
Mm-hmm.
and that it can be something as small and it as a pair of earrings. And it doesn't have to be material things. It
Mm-hmm.
can be, a part of my journey of kind of getting unstuck and getting back to me started with journaling. Like I'm an intermediate inter I forgot the word now, but I journal off and on.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point I had to start journaling again, because I didn't know, I had to get whatever this was out, and I wasn't sure. I'm always very protective of everybody else's feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't, and this is a growth moment for my husband and I, because I wouldn't tell him what was going on. And even
Mm-hmm.
my friends, I was always the strong friend. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm always the one that people come to when they have
Mm-hmm.
something because I can talk with them and I'm an amazing listener. And then I can hear what their heart is saying and kind of guide them to, because usually people really have some of the answers. They're just scared to
Right.
jump.
Right.
Um, and so I didn't do that I didn't allow other people to do that for me.
When you talked about your journaling, and early on when you had mentioned about writing the letters
Mm-hmm.
to your unborn children, was that something that someone taught you, or it was just something you knew inside that you needed to do for you?
Two things. The journaling actually started in sixth grade because that was an assignment that my teacher gave us.
Mm,
Was it sixth grade? I think it was sixth grade. But I remember, and it might have been even, I actually have somewhere in my box of journals, I have a box of journals
oh,
because I have been journaling on and off since that first assignment where we had to make our own little journal and we had to keep a journal.
mm-hmm,
And I remember, and she told us, she's like, if there's anything that um you don't want me to see, you want to keep private, just fold it over. Because we had to turn the journals in.
sure.
And so there were pages that I had turned over my little notebook and turned in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she ever I mean, it would have been easier just to flip it over.
Sure.
But I just remember from that experience, I've always on and off journaled. I'd have, and then I would either make my own journal or I would get, a notebook and just keep that as my journal. And then,
Mm-hmm.
when the dollar store came available, you can
Mm-hmm.
get those little journals for $1. So I
Sure.
always had one. Like I legit have a bin of journals.
So you've known the benefits of
Oh,
journaling.
for years. And there are some points in my life where I know I should have journaled, but it was too painful to journal. It was
Sure.
too painful to even do that.
Sure.
But absolutely, because I wonder, because I've gone through my journals periodically to kind of find the journal from when I was 16 and the journal from um, when I went to school, when I went
Mm-hmm.
away for college.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I was journaling at that time. And now I wish I was. I was like, oh man, I know there's some good stuff in there. I should have wrote that down. And then,
That would
and
make
I've
great
it
material
would
for a
great
future
material
book.
now, right? But I've tried to get my boys to journal too. And
Mm-hmm.
so I introduced journaling to them at a young age as well. We made our own journals. I would make journals for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it took with the youngest because he's just a different kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my oldest, he journals, he did it for a little while. And I think sometimes he journals, um, he's kind of like me, he journals on and off, but he's not a big journaler. But they
Mm-hmm.
do know, I
But you've
think
planted the seed.
I planted that seed and I still
Yes.
will get them little notebooks or little journal books that aren't necessarily journals, but it's just for them to keep their notes on life and stuff. And so
Sure.
I did really try to incorporate that early on with them as well because it's such a gift. I mean, it's really a gift you give yourself because as you're journaling, you are learning more and more about yourself. And when
Sure.
you go back and read that, and you can read how you can pick up the patterns of what's really going on,
Mm-hmm.
you can pull out the lessons that you've learned or the lessons that you should have learned. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's be real, we repeat the same kind of patterns in our life because we haven't learned the lesson yet,
Right.
and we're just repeating the same stuff, but we're not really changing. And so it's therapeutic. It is my mind or eye opening when you can write all this stuff down and then read it back and be like, huh, oh, that's how I'm really feeling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I've written and I've done I journal different ways. Sometimes I write letters to people that I may never give to them, but I'll write it. I'll write letters to God.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are always interesting when you start questioning and asking and writing that. Um,
In a sense, that's like a prayer.
it is. Um, yeah, it is.
So you're burnt out. Your cup is empty. You don't
Mhm.
know what to do, where to go. How do you work yourself out of that? What was your defining moment to rediscover your passion and purpose?
I had to make a decision to do that. I think that was my defining moment. COVID helped because it gave me the time. Honestly, 2020 was not as bad for us as it was for a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because it gave us time in our family, in the Washington household. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember one that my goal for that year was to get unstuck. And I had been on the journey for a minute. Like I started the journey with just doing more things for myself, just kind of incorporating more self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband was all for it because like he was always trying to get me to do stuff too.
Uh-huh.
um I had started a little jewelry business somewhere in that time, like 2018, 2019,
Mm-hmm.
uh just to kind, because it was something for me.
Right.
It was something that I could do for me, and it was fun. It was something that I liked. And then I was also in that helping women to kind of feel confident and talking to more women, and it was something that was mine.
Right.
And that kind of shifted a little bit, but I still, for me, I had to make the decision that I was going to get unstuck.
Right.
And I had to, for me, I had to say it out loud. I had to say it to someone because I needed someone to hold me accountable.
Right.
Because I'm that I'm the girl who is really good at turning stuff on other people. I'm a counselor.
Yes.
I'm a great listener. Friends know that.
Uh-huh.
So when I would get the question, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm good. How are you?"
Yeah, I understand that. Yes. Uh-huh. You didn't really answer the question they were asking you.
"Not at all." "So, how did it go with so and so?"
Uh-huh.
"Oh, okay. Well, you good with that? How do you feel about that?" "Oh, people love talking about themselves, even if they
Mm-hmm.
didn't mean to talk about themselves."
Right.
And because I do have a general care and concern for my friends, I need to turn that back. "So how you doing? What's going on with you?"
Yeah.
"Oh, well, and I know what questions to ask to keep the conversation going. And
Right.
so I had to make it known. I had to start talking to people that I know, love, and trust, and who I know, love, and trust me. And that was a turning point because I couldn't hide anymore.
You had to speak your truth.
I had to speak my truth, and I had to stop hiding behind being able to redirect.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of bit me in the butt a little bit because I have friends now who recognize how I do that
Mm-hmm.
and will be in mid conversation and be like, "This is not about me. I asked you how you're doing." "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." I
They're
had a
keeping you accountable.
oh man, I had a my best friend call me couple months ago because we have another friend who I've known since um kindergarten, and she's going through cancer, and she was having um, some medical issues, and in the hot it was just a whole bunch of stuff. And so my best friend called me and she was like, "So how you doing? I know this is hard seeing her go through this. How you doing?" "Oh, I'm good. How you doing?" And I asked her about her son. She's like, "Mm-mm, I didn't call for
She
that.
knows your game.
She knows, and I can usually get her real good because she's the talker. Like, believe it or not, I'm not the talker among the crew. I'm the listener, and I come in with the jokes sometimes, but so it's easy to get her talking. She said, "No, no, you're not going to do that today. I called to check on you." My best friend is a cancer survivor, and so I've walked with her through that journey. And then knowing that my other one of my longest friends is going through this journey now, she called to
Mhm.
check on me. She's like, "Because I know this is not easy for you to watch us go through this."
Mhm.
And she was correct. And all I could do on that phone call was sob
Tears are
because I,
healing.
yeah,
That's what I learned through grief counseling. Tears are
oh,
healing.
absolutely. And I needed that. And I didn't know, I had not given myself permission to feel any of that.
Right.
And I didn't want to, still working on my own stuff, being protective of everybody else's feelings. I didn't want to bring that up for anybody else because
Right.
I kind of felt like, yeah, I could handle this.
Mhm.
I got it. I'm doing what I need to do because they're all in Virginia. So I'm like, and that's always another part of my angst with having them go through stuff because I can't physically be there. And
Right.
so as I'm sobbing on the phone, she's just pouring into me. She's like, and she's just saying all the things that I hadn't given myself to permission to say out loud because I
Sure.
didn't want to put that burden on anybody else.
Right.
And so, and after that, and after that release, okay, I could talk about it now.
Mhm.
And so just being able to give myself permission to say that I wasn't okay.
That's
That was a
powerful.
big part. Yeah. And then figuring out how to get back okay. And so I had to, go into my own kit. Like I know the resources that I have.
Mhm.
I've done this for other people, help them to kind of get back and find their passion. And a big part of that was doing stuff again.
Mhm.
Um, and then COVID hit. So
Yeah.
I was like, wait, just when I'm ready to like go explore, we're all here looking at each other like, oh,
You're
you're
telling me
still
I have to be
here?
quarantined?
What? With you people? So, but it was, and I will say that was an opportunity for my family to reconnect, and my husband
Sure.
and I, because we had to get honest with each other about some things,
Mhm.
and we had to decide how we were going to go forth in this marriage. Was it going to be kind of stuck in our same unhealthy patterns, or were we going to really um, do this in a way that we can both be honest with each other? Because there's some stuff that we just either didn't realize was the issue, and we had to make that decision. Listen, we can't do this by ourselves.
Mhm.
We've tried. We've been married 22, it'll be 22 years in November. And so we realized we couldn't do this by ourselves. And so we went to couples ministry, couples therapy for that.
Because they
So
said that during COVID, it either made a marriage or it broke them up, one or the
yeah.
other.
Yeah. And we had to make, do we really want to, you know, do we want to break this or do we want to keep it? And
Mhm.
if we want to keep it, we've got to do something different because what
Right.
we've been doing is not going to sustain us moving forward.
Right.
And because, we were learning how to be a couple day to day. Like we functioned as a couple with him on the road. That's different
Then
when you're day to
every
day,
day.
every
Yes.
day, and the kids are there and you're trying to help them do school, and COVID schooling is a lot different than homeschooling. And that
Mhm.
was a big frustration for me. Like this is not homeschooling, because I think some people would say, oh, you school, it's homeschooling. No, it's not. It's completely different.
Right.
So that really helped us, because but we still had to make that decision that what we wanted was more important to us than
You
what we
made your
had right
marriage a
now.
priority.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that helped push us both forward into where now we have these conversations where we're not hiding anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not trying to, well, especially myself, I'm not trying to protect his feelings. I'm respectful of his feelings, but I can still speak my truth and not feel like I have to like protect him and not try to say anything that will make him feel bad. Like, but if
Sure.
I'm hurting, then I have to be able to say I'm hurting and this is why.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
and that's
him
and
and
that's
vice
tough to
versa.
and that's tough to do because you don't know what you're going to expect when you ask that, but you also know you need to know the truth.
You need to know the truth. Yep. Because we absolutely like, and that was, and I think that's a big thing um, in marriage and in parenting, is we operate on this falsehood of the, especially for moms, the, the perfect mom. Like the stay-at-home mom has to do things a certain way for her to be considered a good mom.
Right.
And I call it the perfect mom or the super mom syndrome. And I cringe when I see when I see stuff out there about, oh, dun, 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 it's the super mom. I'm like, superheroes have to hide their identity. It's a
Mm-hmm.
protection for them and for their family, but they have to hide who they really are. And even in their what is it, their pseudo identity
Mm-hmm.
that the world sees, they are they are not who they are. They
Right.
have to be somebody else that the world, to interact with the world.
Right.
And
Right.
so I don't want to be somebody else.
You want to be the best version of you.
I want to be the best version of me. And yes, I have superpowers, but that, because I think all of us have superpowers. We all
Yes, we
have
do.
these things that are in us that help us operate in the world and impact the world around us. But that doesn't mean I have to hide who I am to operate in that power.
Right. That's quite the realization.
Yeah.
So, how did the whole thing come about with Bloom?
Bloom, well, that was my first coaching experience. And I went to a coach for help with my jewelry business and trying to kick that off. And as I was talking to her about kind of what my mission was with the business in terms of helping women to help their confidence and all of that, she's and sharing with her a little bit about um, what I want to do, because I'm starting to really, all this is starting to click now. And she was like, this jewelry business is cute, but this is not what you need to be doing. Like you've got so much more in you that this is not like, I mean, and I can help you do this, but you've got to figure out there's some more stuff in you. And I was kind of scared to do the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kind of had to push me out of my comfort zone, because it's like, if you really want to help women to build their confidence, then what other ways can you do that? Or what can you do with that? And so that's when Bloom started blooming. Basically, it started to rise.
Well, and
um
you were in the same sense, you were blooming also because you cannot help
Absolutely.
others if you have not helped yourself and learned from the experience. So
Absolutely.
you're blooming as well.
And I like, group work is one of my hearts. Like I have always loved working in groups, facilitating groups, and watching people grow through group work. And so I had to tap back into that, because it was one of those, like, what is it that you really love to do? And that's like facilitating groups I will say is one of my jams. Like I love it. I love teaching. I love helping people have their aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing exercises and activities to kind of really um, bring lessons to life for
Mm-hmm.
folks. And so I had to tap back into that. And it's like, that's what I really want to do. And I really want to do that for women and for moms because we don't get to do that as much.
Well, and it sounds
Like,
like you're when these women are working with you, it sounds like you are giving them an experience. Because what I'm starting to find more and more is people want, especially since COVID, people want experiences more than they want things.
yeah,
And everyone wants to be validated. And it sounds like through your Bloom program, you're giving them experiences and you are validating them and letting them know that they are a worthwhile human being and they deserve the very best.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that I really try to get across to people, to moms, is that your value, your worth is not what you do.
Mm,
Because we all get stuck on, you know, well, I'm not as, it's a societal thing. I don't, it comes from so many different areas, but I'm not worth as much as this mom is
right.
because either I'm a stay-at-home mom, and then some people will say that work, moms who work outside of the home aren't, they compare
Everybody's
them to,
comparing themselves to
everybody's
somebody
comparing
else.
and judging, and it's like, no, your worth is not wrapped up, your value is not wrapped up in what you do. Your value is wrapped up in who you are,
Right.
who you are valuable because you are here, you are worth something. What you do is extra, that's fun, but why are you doing it? What is your motivation?
Mm-hmm.
That's what do you value?
Mm-hmm.
All of that is a part of your worth and your value. It's not what you do, and it's not even how well you do it. That's just you do that well. That's a perk.
Oh yeah. Yes.
That's a perk. Don't take that for granted, what you do well,
Right.
because that adds value, but your value is always here at the table. When
Mm-hmm.
you show up, you bring value. You are worthy to be here. Now, how do you want to show up in the world?
Right.
What impact do you want to have? And then start moving in that direction.
And sometimes that is when you talked about everybody has a superpower. Sometimes I don't think that a lot of women, especially, realize they do have superpowers. So
Mhm.
through Bloom, you are helping them to discover that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you have to, I start out talking about, and the reason why I use the bloom especially is it's because I have a brown thumb, but I love gardening. I love the concept of gardening. I love the idea of something as small as a seed can turn into a mighty oak tree.
Right.
And I want people to realize that we are all a seed.
Mm-hmm.
We all have some type of potential and purpose, and every seed has a purpose. You might
Mm-hmm.
not know, if you have a handful of seeds, you're not going to know what each thing is until you start to plant it. The
Oh,
seed
yes.
knows what it is.
Right.
The
Yes.
seed's purpose never changes, even though you might not understand what it is, but its purpose never changes. So we're all a seed. And when we start to activate in our purpose, we start to really bloom and to grow.
Oh.
But we got to figure out what that purpose is and move in that. What's your why? What are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
What's motivating you to do this, to grow? What's your purpose? And move in that, activate that, get moving. And it can be as simple as, one, sometimes we have to vocalize, to say it out loud,
Mm-hmm.
because I think sometimes we don't, it's not necessarily, it's two things. We don't necessarily know what our superpower is, because somebody has squashed
They
that
yucked your
knowledge.
wow. That's what I say. Don't let other people yuck your wow.
Yuck your wow. And you don't believe now that that's a gift or power because somebody has poo-pooed on you or
Yes.
on it and
Yes.
not understood the value and the worth in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you don't understand and you don't think you have anything to give.
Right.
Like I used to believe, like I've been that friend for years who was the one everybody came to. I'm that friend who was the listener for years, but I did not understand the gift or the talent, the skill that that is.
That's a superpower for
It's that
sure.
power in that. And I didn't understand that. I didn't, no one ever had ever identified that for me as a superpower. It's just something that I did naturally. So,
Right.
of course, as I'm going through life, young adult, I'm not really realizing that that's where my power, that's my one of my greatest powers. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
my greatest gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I realized and I guess kind of that's how I went into counseling because I started to accept that as a gift. And I wanted to know how to train that gift,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But yeah, no, I had never, it was just something that I did, but I didn't know that it was a gift.
Right.
And sometimes we have stuff and we do stuff, but we don't know that it's a gift. And it's important to really speak, especially to our young people, but to just to speak in general, speak life into people because you never know what somebody is going through and what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom was a complimenter and I didn't understand it when I was young, but she would just compliment strangers sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
She would just tell them, "Oh, that's a pretty. Oh, you look nice in that," or will joke, make a joke, or but she would compliment them and tell them how well they did. And I asked her about that one time, and she said, "Well, sometimes people just need to know they did something right."
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Because
I got it.
just this morning I was talking to a future podcast guest, and one of the things that she had brought up is that she was in a really dark place because of some medical things that were happening. And I don't remember if she was at the grocery store, or she was someplace, and this woman said to her, "Oh my gosh, I love your bracelet." And she said, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "That bracelet, I absolutely love it. Where did you get it?" And she starts talking to her about this bracelet. And so I guess when she finishes the conversation, she starts noticing that she has a smile on her face.
Mm-hmm.
She, the whole way home, she's thinking about how lovely it was that this woman interacted with her over a piece of jewelry she was wearing that she pretty much had forgotten about that she was even wearing.
Yep.
But because of that woman taking those few minutes to
Mm,
point out about her bracelet, it changed the entire course of her life,
yep.
not just her day, but her life. And man, that is powerful, with
Yeah.
going along with what
Yeah.
you're saying right now, that when you have people in your life, or even if there's somebody that you just meet for that moment in time, by you looking them in the eyes, smiling at them, saying good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or hey, how are you, even
Mm-hmm.
whatever, just those simple little things can change somebody's entire life.
So it helps people
That's
feel
incredible.
seen.
you're
Yeah,
you're
it helps people
validating
feel
them.
seen.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you
Yes.
don't know who needs that. Like I used to say when I was working in youth development that because when I started, it was the whole at-risk kids thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the at-risk kid looked a certain way, came from a certain family, neighborhood, all that. So it was a very distinct picture of what an at-risk kid looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And that annoyed me to the depths of my soul because what people we're forgetting is that all kids are at risk
Oh, yes.
at, for different things, but you could have the most together person on the outside, and they can be a hot mess on the inside and
Mm-hmm.
feel like that they are not worthy,
Mm-hmm.
just have gone through the most traumatic experience. But you would never know because all you see is the outside until that kid or that mom or whomever decides to do something drastic. And then we're saying, oh, I didn't know.
Yep.
And it's really easy because we don't worry about the ones who look like they got it all together.
There was a virtual summit that I was an MC and co-host for this past weekend, and one of the presenters, she was talking about that same exact thing, and she used the example of Kate Spade, the famous
Mm,
designer.
mm-hmm,
And from the outside, everybody thought this woman has got it together. She's got the money, she's got the fame,
mm-hmm,
she's got the family, she's got blah,
mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. And then she committed suicide, and
Yeah,
everybody was like, and then after that, people start looking in, and they missed all the clues
all
and
the
stuff
clues.
about that
Yeah,
she needed desperately
yeah,
for that validation, and she just never felt like she got it. So it
yeah,
goes right
yeah,
along with what you're saying. From the
yeah.
outside appearance, so you just don't know by just taking a few seconds, few
Mm-hmm.
moments with somebody, how you can change
What
their
can
life.
change? Yeah,
Wow.
just having people know that they're seen for who they
Yes.
are is important.
Yeah.
And
And no matter
and
what age you are.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
so with our time that we've got left, just real quick. So about your Amazon best-selling book. Now, Girl, Your Brand is a Big Deal anthology.
Yes.
First of all, how did you come up with that title? And what is your book about?
Well, I have a chapter in the book. So
Perfect. So what
I
so what is
my chapter is chapter 13, and it's Girl, My Journey to Motherhood, Birth to Brand. And it talks
ah
about my experience as in motherhood and terminating the first two, and then having
so
the
telling your
boys, and
story.
losing myself, yeah, in that, and how that birth bloom, and why, um, and how I came up with the acronym for Bloom, which is build confidence, live with intention, operating your purpose, obtain clarity and direction, and move to the next level. So that's
Oh,
how we're blooming. Those were our
it,
goals.
oh, that's beautiful. That
Yeah.
that is wonderful. So because this is about rediscovering your passion and purpose, right now at this moment in time,
Yes.
what are you passionate about personally and professionally?
Good question. Personally, I think I am passionate about really um, sharing my story more. And well, I'm also passionate about getting my senior graduated. That's our number one goal right now.
Yes.
Um, but and my husband and are deciding whether or not we're going to do we did a podcast before, and deciding whether or not we're going to do a marriage podcast.
Oh, wow.
Um, so I think I'm kind of passionate about that, and like starting to really talk more openly and publicly, and having people to help people change their lives. Like I know at this point my story touches folks in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
and I love to have that conversation with people about their story,
Sure.
and really encouraging others to share their story, because we all have a story, and there's a lesson in all of our stories,
Mm-hmm.
and the value of those lessons, and you don't know if you don't share them.
That's
So I
right.
think that's a passion, really getting people to share my story more, to really help others to share theirs as well, and to
Mm-hmm.
kind of find their themes and their lessons along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's
Beautiful.
personal and professional. Yeah.
Good. And then what would you say right now at this point in time in your life is your purpose personally and professionally?
Oh, it all goes back to that senior. Um, we just need to get this boy graduated. I would say my purpose really is to continue to walk authentically as Alycia and continue my journey of growth and help others with their journey and their transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes my family, like getting my son, both my sons, I have a senior and a sophomore. So getting them ready to launch,
Sure.
to launch them into the world with confidence and with love. That's kind of where, because we're almost empty nesters, we're getting closer and closer.
And you're preparing for it.
Yes. Like I'm
So
excited.
so we touched on this during our conversation today, but and you kind of alluded to it, but I just
Mhm.
want to check, what would you say is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower definitely is helping other people find theirs. And I,
Mm,
by listening to their, not just their words, but their heart,
mm-hmm,
and asking the questions to kind of help them come full circle with the answers that they need. Because I think a lot of times we already know what we want to do or how we want to, what we already know what we want,
mm-hmm,
but we are scared. We've pushed it down so far because of our fear or not feeling like we're worthy of it, that we are enough to do it. So all those limiting beliefs that we've stacked on top of it,
mm-hmm.
I like to be able to clear that path so it can come to the front.
Nice. Excellent. So how would you say that you're living your best life, or like I like to say, your best dash?
I love that dash thing. I think I'm living my best dash by going for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Yes.
easy. It's
No.
not. It's not glamour. But I'm going for it because I know what I bring to the table is good stuff. Like I know how I work with people is transformative. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just going for it.
Excellent. Excellent. So are there any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
I would tell I would tell you guys to stop hiding
Hmm.
who you are and go for it. Like really step out on faith into who you are supposed to be. And if you don't know that, then find the help to help you get there.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Alycia, for being my guest today.
Oh,
And
thank you. This is
I mean,
great.
you are a ray of sunshine. I mean, it exudes from you, your goodness
Oh,
and your passion and your purpose. And it is a pleasure and an honor to spend
thank
this time
you.
with you. Uh, Before we sign off, I know there's going to be people that are going to want to reach out to you and talk about how they can bloom with your help. So, how can people connect with you?
Awesome. You can always find me on Facebook and Instagram at Bloom with Alycia. And I do a free masterclass called More Than Just a Mom. You can find that at morethanjustamom.live, Live. And that we go through the myths and the mistakes that moms make and how to kind of reclaim your identity in that.
And folks, remember, if you've been a longtime listener here to the podcast, you know that in the description of this episode are the links that Alycia just brought up. So as soon as you sign off, make sure you go to the description. You'll be able to hit one of those links and you'll be able to go directly and connect with Alycia, because I know many of you might have questions and comments and all kinds of things you want to
Absolutely.
talk with her about. because she is just filled with so much goodness that I know that has come through, whether you've been watching us on YouTube or one of our podcast channels. So with that, once again, Alycia, thank you for this time that you've spent with me. It's gone very quickly. I cannot believe how fast the time has gone, but you are a wonderful human being, and it is a pleasure to know you.
Oh, same here. Thank you.
Well, for those of you that are out there listening, remember to subscribe and follow this podcast and invite your family and friends to do so. I know that it will mean just as much to your family and friends to hear all of these words of wisdom that Alycia has shared with us with her story and all the things that she has come through with her challenges and obstacles. And don't forget, you can check out my website at www.pathwayswithpatty.org. Sign up for a free Zoom chat with me, and you can also get my free Pathway to a New Beginning roadmap. So until we meet again, continue to live your best dash and know that life's an adventure, and I want you to enjoy the journey because your life matters. Thank you for joining us today, and God bless you all.